The no-nonsense defender. It's 2005, and John Terry stands like a blood-soaked gladiator at the heart of Chelsea's defence. A mask on his face, white socks pulled high, ready to sacrifice his skull to keep you from scoring. This was defending in its purest, most violent form. No cute passes out from the back, no inverted nonsense, just a man who'd rather shatter every bone in his body than watch a ball hit his net. These warriors didn't just defend, they declared war on attackers. John Terry, Carles Puyol, Nemanja Vidic, Pepe. Names that made strikers check over their shoulders before entering the box. They didn't need to thread passes like midfielders or dance around pressure. Their philosophy was biblical. You shall not pass. Vidic was so impenetrable that Sir Alex Ferguson called him one of the greatest defenders he'd ever worked with. Terry became the only defender to win 2 Premier League Player of the Year awards, not for his passing, but for being an absolute brick wall. But then came Sergio Ramos, the bridge between worlds. Still a warrior who'd headbutt his way through a wall, but also the first to master those silky 60-yard passes and dribble out of pressure like a midfielder. Ramos proved you could have both the killer instinct and the technical brilliance. Today's centre-backs like John Stones represent the full evolution, judged more on passing accuracy than last-ditch heroics. Under Pep's system, Stones is valued as much for distribution as defending. The pure warriors would be lost in today's possession-obsessed game. Some DNA survives. Lisandro Martinez carries that fighting spirit wrapped in technical silk. But that primal, win-at-all-tilts mentality is becoming a rare sight. The hardman midfielder. Roy Keane wasn't just a midfielder, he was a force of nature who dominated through sheer intimidation, leading Manchester United to 7 Premier League titles with an intensity that made opponents question their career choices. He'd stare down anyone, from Patrick Vieira to referees, and somehow make them blink first. These hardmen like Keane, Patrick Vieira, and Gennaro Gattuso weren't just physically imposing, they combined warrior mentality with genuine technical brilliance. Gattuso's intensity was so legendary that teammates feared him more than opponents. Vieira turned Arsenal's midfield into a battleground where only the brave survived. The brutal intensity was real. Former referee Mark Clattenburg admitted, "I still smile at the first time I came across Roy Keane. He screamed at us for a corner, and I'm sure it was a goal kick, but because he screamed at us so loudly, I gave a corner. I was that petrified of him." Today's game sanitized this out of existence. Modern defensive midfielders like Rodri and Busquets are technicians before anything else. They press intelligently, pass precisely, control tempo, but nobody's limping off the field from a tackle they made. These thugs actually made the game more technical. When you knew Keane might snap your ankle, you learned to pass quicker, move smarter, think faster. In a twisted way, football's most feared destroyers were actually its greatest teachers. The classic number 10. The classic number 10 was football's Michelangelo, a pure artist floating just behind the striker, painting masterpieces with every pass. Juan Román Riquelme, Kaká, Francesco Totti, Mesut Özil. These weren't just players. They were magicians who could split defenses with a glance and unlock Fort Knox with a single touch. Riquelme was poetry in motion, trapped in a world obsessed with speed. When he dragged Villarreal to 3rd place in La Liga in 2004 to 2005, finishing above Real Madrid's billion-dollar Galacticos, it wasn't just football, it was art defeating science. These masters needed time to think, space to breathe, freedom to create. But football became addicted to intensity. The modern game turned into a relentless pressing machine where every second counts and every player must contribute defensively. Suddenly, having a genius who disappeared when the opposition had the ball became tactical suicide. The 4-3-3 revolution murdered the classic 10. No more lone artist behind the striker. Instead, creativity became a committee decision. Teams realized they couldn't carry a passenger, no matter how brilliant. Mesut Özil at Arsenal became the tragic symbol of this extinction. Great in his first seasons, an undeniable creative genius. But in a world that demanded you press like a maniac and track back like a defender, pure artistry wasn't enough anymore. Bruno Fernandes and Kevin De Bruyne are what survived. 10s who create magic, but also tackle, press and sprint. The dreamy, untouchable artist floating above the chaos? Football evolved past them, and honestly, we lost something beautiful in the process. The fox in the box. Pippo Inzaghi was born offside, but somehow always scored. The poacher was football's ultimate specialist, a player who lived for one thing, being in the right place at the right time. Chicharito, Miroslav Klose, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Ruud van Nistelrooy. These players didn't need to drop deep, track back, or spray Hollywood passes. They just needed 6 yards of space and half a chance. Van Nistelrooy scored 150 goals for Manchester United, yet only 3 came from outside the box. That's the definition of a specialist. Inzaghi averaged a goal every other game across his career, yet Kaká once joked that he'd never seen him train. He didn't need to. His runs were instinctive, his finishing clinical, his positioning supernatural. He'd disappear for 89 minutes, then ghost into the box and steal your soul. Even Jamie Vardy, one of the last true poachers, had to evolve, adding pace, pressing, and link-up play to survive in the Premier League's relentless system. But modern football murdered this purity. Today's strikers need to be Swiss Army knives, creators, pressers, false nines who drop deep to overload midfield. Even Erling Haaland, who looks like a classic poacher, contributes to build-up play, presses defenders, and offers much more than just box predation. The problem? If you're only dangerous in the penalty area, defenses can suffocate you. If you don't contribute to pressing or build-up, you're playing with 10 men for 80% of the match. Modern managers can't afford that luxury. Football evolved into a chess match where every piece must serve multiple purposes. The fox in the box was beautiful in its simplicity. One job, executed to perfection. But that single-minded focus became their downfall. The target man. Jan Koller was 6 feet 7 inches of pure Czechoslovakian nightmare fuel. Peter Crouch turned gangly awkwardness into an art form that somehow terrorized Premier League defenses. Andy Carroll was a human wrecking ball with a forehead that could redirect missiles. These weren't just strikers, they were tactical siege engines designed to demolish defensive structures. The target man was about intimidation through inevitability. Defenders knew exactly what was coming. A long ball launched toward their giant tormentor, but couldn't stop it. Didier Drogba perfected this torture, combining raw power with silky touch. Even those no-nonsense defenders we talked about earlier couldn't bully him. He'd shrug off Vidic like a coat and score with venom. Teams built entire philosophies around their colossus. Get the ball to the big man, let him create beautiful chaos, then feast on the scraps. Jostein Flo made a career from this simplicity. The Norwegian turned crosses into goals and defenders into therapy patients so effectively, he even had the Flo pass named after him. Haaland may well fit the descriptions of a classic target man. He's got the physicality and aerial dominance, but his lightning pace and movement patterns separates him from the rest. He's not camping in the box waiting, he's hunting in spaces that traditional target men never thought of exploring. The classic battering ram died because football became a speed chess match. Modern centre-backs are tactical and positional freaks who can match that physicality while threading passes under pressure. Teams can't just launch hopeful missiles anymore and risk losing possession to defenders who thread passes like budget Andrea Pirlo's, and even budget Pirlo's classifies as elite level. The out-and-out winger. David Beckham hugging the touchline like it owed him money, whipping in cross after cross with that impossible right foot. Ryan Giggs destroying fullbacks with pure pace and traditional wing wizardry. These players were football's width providers. Their job was to get to the byline and deliver perfection on a silver platter. Simple, effective, and absolutely devastating when executed by masters. Then Pep Guardiola's Barcelona broke football's brain. Why hug the touchline when you can cut inside onto your stronger foot and become a goal machine? Salah, Mbappe and Sane drift wide but always hunt inward, creating nightmares for defenders while adding lethal finishing to their arsenal. The pure crosser became tactical suicide when teams realized inverted play created more dangerous shooting angles. Why gamble on a cross finding its target when you can slice inside and unleash hell directly at goal? The mathematics of modern football murdered the traditional approach. Traditional wingers still haunt lower leagues where crossing remains king. But at football's summit, the touchline hugger has been replaced by inside forwards who offer goal threat disguised as width providers. The purists died, but the game became deadlier. The sweeper. Franz Beckenbauer didn't just defend, he conducted the entire orchestra from behind the back four like a tactical genius with a PhD in mind reading. The libero was football's ultimate free agent, sweeping up danger while launching attacks with surgical passes that could split defenses from the deepest trenches. Franco Baresi perfected this dark art at AC Milan, reading the game with such supernatural ability that opponents swore he could see into the future. These players had godlike freedom to roam, to materialize in midfield when needed, to orchestrate attacks from positions that shouldn't even exist. Here's the nuclear take that'll melt your brain. John Stones under Pep Guardiola is actually a modern libero, just disguised in contemporary tactics. He steps into midfield, creates numerical overloads, and dictates play from deep. It's Beckenbauer reborn in Manchester City blue. The traditional libero was murdered by the 1990 World Cup offside rule change and tactical paranoia. Playing someone behind the defensive line became tactical suicide when opponents learned to exploit the Grand Canyon-sized spaces left behind. But the spirit haunts modern football like a beautiful ghost, in centre-backs given license to maraud forward, in sweeper keepers who act like outfield players, and in systems that worship ball-playing defenders who create magic from the deepest positions. The Destroyer. Claude Makelele was so devastatingly perfect at one thing that football literally renamed a position after him. Imagine being so good they changed the dictionary. The pure destroyer lived to win the ball back and absolutely nothing else. No Instagram highlight reels, no late runs into the box, no creativity, just relentless ball winning and robotic distribution to more gifted teammates. Makelele's job was brutally simple. Sit in front of the defense like a human shield, murder every attack, and give the ball to someone prettier. When Real Madrid's Galactico obsession led them to sell Makelele and replace him with David Beckham, Zinedine Zidane delivered the most savage quote in football history. Why add another layer of gold paint to the Bentley when the engine has been removed? That perfectly captured the Destroyer's hidden value. They were the engine room while everyone else got the glory. Edgar Davids, Gennaro Gattuso, minus the psychopathy, Leicester era N'Golo Kante, pure ball-winning machines who made superstars look superhuman. Makelele posted a ridiculous 70.8% win percentage at Chelsea by doing the dirty work nobody noticed. But modern football became greedy and demanded everything from everyone. Today's defensive midfielders must be deep-lying playmakers, press-resistant technicians, progressive passing artists. Teams realized they couldn't afford a player who only destroyed. They needed someone who could build empires from deep like Rodri or Busquets. The pace merchant. Theo Walcott was basically a Formula One car who was driven by someone who just got his driving license. Pep Guardiola once declared you'd need a pistol to stop him. This was football's purest speed demon, a player whose entire existence revolved around making defenders question their career choices through raw, terrifying pace. The pace merchant was brutally simple. Get ball, activate afterburners, pray something magical happens. Defending against that nuclear pace was like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. Even world-class defenders would panic when Walcott got the ball in space. Players like Walcott, Obafemi Martins, and Aaron Lennon built entire careers on this primal foundation. They didn't need Zidane's touch because their pace created chaos through pure physics. Defenders had to drop deeper like scared rabbits. Entire defensive systems had to be rebuilt just to contain them. But pace without brains became predictably tragic. Chris Waddle delivered the brutal truth about Walcott. I've never seen him develop. He just doesn't understand the game, where to be running, when to run inside a fullback. The pace merchant's Achilles heel was always between their ears. Then came 2012-13, and suddenly at 24, Walcott's Formula One car finally got a proper driver. He scored 21 goals and grabbed 16 assists, topping Arsenal's scoring charts with a goal or assist every 80 minutes. The beautiful irony? When speed finally met intelligence, he became unstoppable. For one magical season, the pace merchant evolved into a complete player. But football had already moved on. Modern football's tactical revolution exposed these beautiful freaks of nature. Smart coaches learned to neutralize speed through suffocating pressing traps, deeper defensive lines, and positional discipline. If your only weapon is pace, chess masters will destroy you. Today's pace merchants like Adama Traore either evolved, became museum pieces, or get stuck on the bench. Pure speed died when football demanded tactical IQ, decision-making, and multiple dimensions.
The utility player. John O'Shea could play anywhere on the pitch, including goalkeeper when Edwin van der Sar got sent off, and he actually made saves. These were football's ultimate problem solvers, who treated position changes like wardrobe swaps. Phil Neville, James Milner, Wes Brown, Dirk Kuyt, Javier Mascherano, Fabinho. The reliable squad soldiers who could plug any gap without whining or demanding pay rises. Competent everywhere, exceptional nowhere, but worth their weight in tactical gold. Sir Alex Ferguson worshipped these chameleons because they provided infinite flexibility without prima donna attitudes. Crisis at right back, Neville's got it. Midfield emergency, O'Shea materialises. Centre-back disaster, problem solved. You can't just slot someone at fullback anymore when the role demands overlapping runs, inverted movements, and split-second decision-making under gegenpress. Squad economics shifted dramatically too. Why have one player decent at 6 positions when you can afford 6 specialists who dominate their roles? The money changed, specialization conquered, and jack of all trades became master of none liabilities. Versatile legends like Milner, Azpilicueta and Fabinho prove utility players can still thrive, but only if they master multiple positions completely. Yet as these aging warriors enter their final chapters, a chilling reality emerges. They might be football's last true Swiss Army knives. The box-to-box midfielder. Steven Gerrard epitomized this breed. A midfielder who could tackle in his own box and score from 30 yards in the same breath. Frank Lampard mastered the late run into the box while still fulfilling defensive duties. These players covered every blade of grass and influenced every phase of play. The box-to-box midfielder was football's ultimate athlete. Stamina, technique, vision and timing weaponized into one devastating package. They were everywhere because the game demanded omnipresence. But here's the nuclear take. Are Jude Bellingham, Federico Valverde, and Nicolo Barella bringing this archetype back from the dead? They might represent evolution rather than extinction. Modern box-to-box players are more tactically disciplined, but equally influential. The traditional box-to-box midfielder faded as tactical specialization increased. Teams wanted specific roles: defensive midfielder, attacking midfielder, wide midfielder. The jack-of-all-trades approach seemed less efficient than surgical specialists. Yet today's most successful teams feature players who can influence both boxes. The archetype didn't die. It adapted to modern tactical demands while maintaining its core principle of total field domination. The lazy technician. Dimitar Berbatov once declared, "You are not going to see me puffing around the pitch." There is a saying in Bulgaria that great quality doesn't require much effort. This was football's ultimate luxury player, technically gifted beyond belief, but allergic to defensive responsibility. These players were artists who happened to play football. Berbatov's first touch was pure silk, his finishing surgical, his vision supernatural. Juan Román Riquelme could orchestrate symphonies with a single pass, but would rather watch paint dry than track back. Antonio Cassano made impossible skills look effortless, while making defensive effort look impossible. Ronaldinho in his later years became the poster child for this beautiful problem. When the magic flowed, he was untouchable. When it didn't, he was a passenger on a luxury cruise through 90 minutes. These players got away with it because they were just that transcendent. Ferguson praised Berbatov as having a touch of genius about him, defending his unique approach to the game. But modern football has zero patience for passengers. The high press demands every player contribute defensively. Gegenpressing systems require immediate reaction to losing possession. You can't have someone admiring their own artistry while opponents counterattack. Analytics murdered this archetype more than anything else. Teams realized that even genius-level technical ability couldn't compensate for defensive liabilities over 90 minutes. The numbers proved these players often cost more than they contributed. The defensively lazy technician died because football became ruthlessly collective. There's no room for individual brilliance that comes at the expense of team responsibility. The magic still exists, but now it needs a work permit. That was the story of football's lost warriors, the extinct player archetypes who made the beautiful game magical before tactical evolution buried them forever. Which extinct archetype do you miss the most? And do you think modern football gained efficiency but lost its soul? Let me know in the comments, and if you want more deep dives on football's evolution and greatest stories, make sure to subscribe.